Yeah, thank you all for being here. We'll do a quick introduction before the sponsor slide, which I probably should have swapped around. Thanks for coming to our presentation. So we're going to talk about external services in Flow. So quick hands up. Has anyone done much Flow? Done HTTP callouts in Flow? Cool. Oh, hopefully this will take you to the next level. This is wonderful. So I say our presentation. You can see there's just me, there's no Jana. Unfortunately, she's not here with us. I was just going to stand on the side and be like eye candy. What? Why are you laughing? But unfortunately, you got me for the whole thing. Jana works for the Collinson Group as a Salesforce admin. And this is me, Todd Halfpenny. I'm a technical architect at a company called Cadify. I'm a Salesforce MVP, Golden Hoodie recipient. And the founder of something called Shirtforce, that if you don't know about, we make hopefully funny t-shirts and all the money goes to charity. But that's enough about that. Shirtforce or shitforce.org you can go to, works as well. There's one. So thank you to all for coming. I think I said that already, but also thanks to our amazing sponsors. Like I said, we've had some good food today. But thank you to all the other speakers. I've had such good sessions so far I've been into, so I hope I keep that standard up. And to the organisers, I think they've done an incredible job today. What are we going to talk about? Well, external services is the topic. We're going to talk about what they are, why you might want to use them over HTTP callouts, or if you don't know what HTTP callouts are, we'll cover a bit of that too. We'll go through some demos of really how you can put them into practice and what they're going to give you. And then maybe we'll talk a bit about when maybe you don't want to use them, or what you might need to think about if you are going to use them. There's always one. Tracy. Right, so external services, the idea is out on the internet, there are all of these amazing applications and things out there, whether it's Slack that you want to send a message through, or there's ones where you can get the weather, stock market updates. There's all these applications live out there, and we can make use of these from our org to enrich our data, to help our automations. And so, yeah, there's ones like Slack, and these things that live on the internet, so they've got APIs, so specification that how you interact with them. And what you can do with external services in Salesforce is take those specifications, automatically bring them in, and it will give you actions for your flows. And then you can make use of them. But why? Why would you want to use external services? Well, APIs are cool, I think. They can help you streamline your automations. Let's say you had some people out on the road and you wanted to give them traffic updates, right? Maybe you're in the office, I could check the website of the traffic people. I could then copy and paste it or type it out incorrectly into Slack and send it through. Why do that when these could all be automated? And APIs are there to make your life nice and simple, streamline your workflows. External services, why would you use them over standard HTTP callouts, which you can do already? We'll come on to those a bit in a minute. But external services are safer than HTTP callouts. I'm going to try and zoom in here so you can see what this is. My mouse cursor, there it is. Oh, it's huge. Look at that. Oh, my good God. So when you build an HTTP callout in a flow, you can do things like, this is a request of data that needs to go to an endpoint for me to get data back, right? I'm going to send it this stuff. Looks like I'm sending off an order for pets. By the looks of it, there's an ID for the pet, a pet ID and a quantity. And over here, Salesforce does quite a good job of saying, oh, right, if this is your payload of data, these are the types of things we think you're going to put in, which is quite handy, right? And more often than not, it's okay. Not so much if you had 0.5 as a quantity, because over here it says the quantity is an integer, which doesn't have like a floating point. Not that you're going to have half a rabbit or half a goat, but it might be half a kilo of rabbit food, right? So Salesforce has it's tried its best, but it's wrong. If you were to use often, yeah, I mean this could be, but external services, the way they work is the types that come in here would be correct, right? They'd be according to a specification, and that's the key. It revolves around this specification. So they're better than callouts in some ways. When you use external services, they also give you a level of service discoverability, which is quite nice. So let's say you had your field rep on the road and you were going to send them traffic updates for things, whether like by a Slack message maybe. You might know that there's an API that you can call that says, get me the latest status for the M23, or what's the nearest road around here? I don't know, I don't drive. Something like that. But you might not know that application on the internet also gives you an API to say, oh, you can get the list of upcoming maintenances, right? So there's another API that you might not know about. If you use external services to build your callouts, you would be told what services are available. So it's kind of nice. You get to learn things through there. And once you've built these things, you can use them all over the place, right? So as an admin, you can use them in Flow. The devs can use them in Apex. You can put them in your bots. Einstein, Agent 1, Lightning 1, Agent Force bots, are they called now? Something like that. Agent Force bots. Today, tomorrow, there might be something different. Yeah, and you can use them in Omni Studio and all these places. They're pretty cool. So how do we create these external services? This is to give you some context. We'll go through a demo in a minute. Step one is you find a provider, an external application that you want to make use of. It could be Slack, it could be this traffic app, it could be stock market, it could be anything really. You want to have a specification for that API. They don't always have specifications. You can create them. A dev could create them. Once you have that, well, let's go into a spec. I'm a coder, I'm a dev, right? This is meant to be an admin talk, but Jana's not here, so I put some code in because that's how I roll. This is a specification in here. Oh, this one's for status.salesforce.com. Some of you might have made use of that last week. Or not. In fact, the fun thing is you could use the API still, even when status.salesforce website was down, you could use the API to still get to it, which is cool. In the specification, there's something here that says it's a path, and it's instance, your instance ID, and then a status. And it tells you, oh, this retrieves a status for that instance. It tells you that to make this call to this endpoint, you need a parameter called key. It goes in the path, which is the kind of the URL part. It's of type string, which is cool. It tells you that's the instance key. And then further down, it will say, oh, well, actually, it's going to send you a response. And in this example, some of the response is going to send you the release version. Okay, that's kind of what spec looks like. I love it. It makes me go, whoa. Once we have our spec, then we need to create a named credential within our org. This is the piece that helps our org identify an endpoint and maybe pass over any authentication that's going to it. Named credentials are used throughout your org. Many of you probably used them before. And then we have this external service in Salesforce. And we take our specification, bundle it up, and it creates us a whole load of invocable Apex, invocable code within our org automatically for us that can then be used. And once we have that, we build our flow, and then we have lots of fun and we profit, hopefully, in ways that maybe is financial, maybe it's just because it makes you feel good. I'm now going to go through a demo. This is our use case. Jana's more in tune with this than I am. And our use case is, so Jana works for a company called Collinson Group, and they, I think I understand it correctly, they have contracts, or they manage contracts with like airport lounges and then corporates who want access to those airport lounges, right? So you might be, I don't know, Marks and Spencer's, and you want your top execs to have access to airport lounges. They manage the contracts between that. These contracts can go on for a long, long period of time, and they occur in all sorts of currencies because they've got airports all around the world, of course. And so her sales reps have these opportunities, and they want to know what exchange rate they're getting. All the opportunities are in their own local currencies or different currencies, depending on who they're dealing with. And these opportunities go on for a long time. They'd be worth lots and lots of money. And what the sales reps want is to know when an opportunity is created, what's the USD, the United States dollars exchange rate to the local opportunities currency. And then they want to know what it is when the deal is closed, and they want to know what it is when they go and look at an opportunity. They want a real-time update, what's the exchange rate. They could do this manually today, right? You could go, oh, I'm going to go to what's my exchange rate.com or whatever it is and do it manually, but they don't want to. They want to see it within their opportunity. So we're going to look at a use case where Jana's going to build out a screen flow, so when a sales rep is looking at an opportunity, they can just click a nice quick action button, bring in the latest exchange rate, stamp it on the record, and the sales rep's happy, right? Because they want to know if they're getting a good deal or not, or they need to renegotiate based on that. So that's the use case we're going to go through in our demo, is bringing that information in. Step one, we need to identify our service. Thankfully, there are applications on the internet where you can get exchange rates. We're using currencyapi.com, which is handy because that's exactly what we want, an API to do currency conversion. We need a specification. They do have a specification, which is good. It looks like this. And in there, there's a call called latest, and it retrieves the latest conversion rate. Perfect, that's what we want. The specification tells us it produces some output. It also tells us that we're going to need an API key, a base currency, which is like US dollars for Jana's org, and it takes in some currencies, which is the currency code for the whatever you're trying to get the rate for against US dollars. It tells us there's going to be a response. You don't have to know any of this, by the way. This is just what's under the hood. But it does tell us in here, gives us an example. This is what the output's going to look like. So this is Canadian dollars, and it's going to have some kind of value in like a floating point. So we've got our endpoint, and we've got our specification from that endpoint. Now we're going to create our named credential. In fact, other Todd's going to create a named credential. Massive on here, excellent. You need to create a new legacy named credential. I don't know why. You do. If you don't need to, tell me. I think you do. Other Todd's going to call it currency API v3, I guess. Oh, name cred, good idea. And then in here, he's just going to put the URL, api.currencyapi.com. That's easy. Name credential done. We need no authentication for it. Save, and we've got that. That's step three. Oh, we're nearly there at the fun bit, which is building our flow. We now need to create our external service. So this is where we take the specification that the website gives us, and we plumb it in, and then Salesforce is going to create all of this cool code behind the scenes that allows us to build our flow. So we're going to go to external services. Todd's really lazy, so he doesn't even type it all out. Ignore these existing ones that I built during the demo phase, but there's a big button called Add External Services. We're going to go in there and create one now. We've got a spec, so we're going to click this massive button. I don't know why I zoomed in, it was already gigantic. And then we've got to give it a name, external currency API service. What's he going to call it? Currency API v3 external service. We're going to give it a schema. We're going to use the name credential we created earlier. And then we're going to paste in the spec in the big box in here. This could be a URL with a specification, but it's going to dump it all in. Copy and paste. And then we should give it a description, right, Nathaniel? Everything should have a description. Todd, what are we going to call it? I don't know how many whiskies I had when I wrote this, but we'll see what I decided to, call it.
I only wrote a description because Nathaniel told me to.
No, other Todd's a good admin. He knows what he's doing. Oh, so here we can see, right, I've put this in, and I've now got two operations available for me that I didn't necessarily know about the others, but it's brought those in for me. And then in these other screens, it tells me, like it's decoded the specification for me, so I can just use it, read it in a nice manner. It says, oh, you've got to supply these things, and this will be what you get back, and all that nonsense. And then what that's actually really done, oh, so we can click in, and it tells us here, we've got our latest, and it's all this gumph, so you can go and look at it after you've created it. But the exciting thing is, if we have a look at the Apex classes, what's actually been created behind the scenes as part of that external service creation is this whole chunk of Apex code here, which is all the data types that you're going to get back. So as a dev or an admin, you don't have to worry about these things now. When you're going to build it, it'll all just look really fancy for you. So we built our external service, which is just clicking a few things, copying and pasting, but now we can build our flow, which is cool. So this is the bit that, please don't critique me too hard on my flows. I don't build flows, I'm a dev, so if I do things wrong, then we'll just let it slide. But we're going to create a new screen flow, I think is what we want. Our sales ops are going to go into, our sales reps, sorry, will go into their ops. They're going to click a quick action button, and we're going to launch a screen flow. So let's create this screen flow in here. Click create. And here it is. I did go through in the demo creating all the resources, but there are quite a few of them I wanted to create, so I've actually just going to show you now all the ones I did create up front. We have an API key. Our service needs an API key. This is just coming from a piece of custom metadata, so I've put it in at the back end, and I can just refer to it in this resource. Saves me having to know about it every time I want to use this endpoint. I also create a base currency, which I think you can probably get from the org record. I don't know, can you? I didn't. I put it in custom metadata because I don't know what I'm doing. But it's there and it works, so we'll just roll with this. I also, because it's a ScreenFlow, created a record ID resource. That's right, Simon, isn't it? So I can, yeah, excellent. I'm doing okay here. And this is going to be the opportunity. So, a couple more. I created a resource called response code. So when the API result comes back, it'll be a response code, which is one of these response codes here, and hopefully it'll be a 200, which is okay, and not one of these 400 or 500 things over here, which is wrong. And so for my flow, I wanted to know when it's good. So I created a constant called OK status code, which has got a value 200. I'm sure there's easier things to do. But now we get to the cool bit. I'm adding an action to my flow, and down in my action list now is my currency API. And in there, it tells me, oh, you got these two things, right? I don't have to go about doing anything much more than clicking, I want to get the latest from this external service. Get latest X rate. Well, that's a bit, maybe, I don't know. But never mind, that's what I've got. And in here, in my flow now, it tells me, if you scroll down, Todd, I think, yeah, it tells me that these are the inputs I'm going to need, and it knows the data types that have got to go into them. So in here, I've put my API key in. We're going to put the base currency in as well, which should be in one of my variables already. And then we're going to add the currency in, which comes from the opportunity record. So I'm going to take my record ID dot currency code. I'm guessing now. We'll have a look in a second. And so here with just clicks, the flow is guiding me through what I need to do to get to this endpoint on the internet. All nice and handy. And there we go. That's quite easy, isn't it? Quite self-explanatory, hopefully. What I can do, though, now is I want to, in here for this specific thing, manually assign variables. And I get these options, the 200, which is the good one. I want to put this into a new resource, new variable for me. And this is going to be a variable. Yeah, Todd. It's going to be of type Apex defined, because the external service has created all this Apex for me. And in there, there's a data type which corresponds to what the specifications that I get back. So I'm going to choose Apex defined in here. And this is the only bit that really requires any kind of understanding, is I have to choose the right class. But hopefully it shouldn't be too hard, but I want to get the latest. So if we choose the latest, that's it. That's the result I want to get back from here. And I'm going to take the response code and put it into my response code variable. We can do that because we want to check the response code when it comes back to see whether or not I need to tell the user, oh, cool, here's the result, or, oh dear, this didn't work, maybe I'm going to send the admin an email or notify that the call-out's gone wrong. In fact, let's do that now. We'll put a decision in. Is it OK, Todd? Oh, OK response. OK response. And we're just going to check in here that my response code from the API call matches my constant, which is called OK status response, which was the 200. So we'll just check that that's the case. OK status code. Is that good naming? I don't know. Is that good flow naming for constants? OK status code?
I've seen far worse.
Have you? Oh. Oh, thanks, man. I feel quite good then now. But now we've got our result back. What we're going to do is we want to update our opportunity record, right? We've got our result back from the internet with these values in, our new exchange rates for US dollars. Let's throw them into our opportunity. This is what I didn't know. Can I just use the top one? Or do I use I'd check the bottom one. So I'm going to put this into the opportunity record manually. I guess I could use the top option there. Does anyone know? I probably could.
You can just use the record variable, I think.
Yeah.
As long as you assign everything to the...
Yeah, I think that would work. But I haven't done that here. I'm going to manually say, oh, actually, I want the ID from the record ID, so I'm being very specific and explicit here. But so I'm saying, update the opportunity where the ID equals my ID, and I'm going to put in here my latest rate. We've got custom fields in here, so the latest rate for US dollars. Click here. And in here, I can now go in and go, get my Apex defined variable, And in here, there's a data. Click that, and it tells me, oh, there's USD. That's the one I want, and I want the value from that. So I use boink, boink, boink. Again, I don't, like the flow is guiding me through what all these data structures are. I do also want to stamp the date at which the response was for, so that I have some kind of audit trail. And this is why I got quite excited. I created some bonkers, I thought it was quite bonkers, formula field to get a Zulu date time string, slice out the bits, and then put it into a string, date time string that Salesforce would like. I'd like your views on whether I did this right or not. It works. Let's see it. I quite like this. So I'm taking my date time string here. I'm getting rid of the T and the Z, because that's what comes back in the Zulu form. And I'm then going to substitute them with spaces and then put it into a date time field.
I think the better way of doing that is the transform element.
I could have transformed, yes, I could have done. That would have been cool. It would have been another funky piece. But anyway, that kind of update works. What I then want to do is I want to update the opportunity screen. And I didn't know how to do this, so I just installed a package from unofficial SF called Update Screen. Have you used this? It's well cool. So I bring this action in here, and it will update the record behind the scenes without me having to refresh the page. I didn't know, but it works. It's quite neat. Is that right? Okay, we did that. Huh? So there's an action. So because in my update, I'm updating the records, the fields on the record, and then with this update action, update screen action, it will refresh the screen for me without having to manually reload the whole page. Quite cool. Yeah. Oh, I then have a screen component where I throw in just stuff to say to the user, oh, yeah, these are the results back. Because I think you need a screen component for ScreenFlow to be valid. Possibly, yeah, so I did. I didn't really want one. I wanted it just to be magic, but I had to use one. I then also, because I'm a good guy, put in an error flow here. It just says, oops, or something. But we won't look at it, Todd. Don't look into that one. We'll skip on. But that's the basic flow, right? So without any coding, I've been able to make a call out to an endpoint, get the result back, and hopefully we've done what we should have done to make the whole kind of use case flow. Do you want to see it in action? I want to see it in action. Yeah. So here we are. Here's sales rep Todd. He's going to look at the Inspire East opportunity. And you can see in here, we've got a date that was stamped for creation. It's 1.31, and that was the date it went. And we want to also see on here what the latest is, so what currently is. I click my Update Latest Rates button. It goes off to the internet. Boink. Gets my rate back. There's the Zulu string. Yeah, that's nice. That's the one we parsed, Matt. I should have transformed it, I guess. But I click Finish, and the Update Screen action has updated this one for me, so I didn't need to reload the screen. I don't know if you have to do that, but it worked for me. Yes, we've managed to solve that use case. And I tell you what, when Jana and I built this out, she was like, oh my God, this is cool. Like, this is really going to save her business many hours, I guess, a month of having to do all this sort of stuff manually. So that's it, external services in Flow. There are things to think about. I didn't bulkify any of that. I don't know if you really need to bulkify screen flows, but you probably need to understand bulkifying your endpoint, right? If you're firing off a record trigger flow, you want to know that when you're calling out to things on the internet, they might need to be bulkified, or they might take, they might have rate limiting or things like that. So you've got to be aware that when you're calling outside of Salesforce, that these things are, of course, interesting and relevant to you. There will be failure scenarios, like if I was calling status.salesforce.com, I might have maybe had an outage last week. If I'm calling currency.api.com too much, they might have a limit on there. My authentication tokens might kind of roll over or whatever, so you've got to be aware of those. API limits, we covered those. And something else, although in this case there was no coding involved apart from me showing you specs because I love them, not all specifications on the internet are equal. So you might get one and say, oh, this is cool, I've got an API for stock market rallies, right, you want to bring in. It might not work quite as well as you hoped it would. You might need someone to take a look and massage it slightly to give you exactly what you want. I think that was your note. Oh yeah, and maybe HTTP callouts would be easier for you in a particular scenario. Like you might not want to go through these things. But there are the benefits. We did all that with clicks, not code, which is nice. As a dev, I'm happy with that. I hope people understand that devs like flow too. We get all the typings, and I think this is the important bit really here, is I didn't have to make any assumptions about the data types that were required. And if I did send half a rabbit across in my API call for my pet ordering system, that it wouldn't throw a wobbly because I'd have been told I have to send whole numbers of rabbits or goats or whatever. Who has goats as pets? I don't know. But, hamsters, let's say hamsters. When you're building with these, they do give you access for all this stuff in Apex too, so your devs can take advantage of anything you build in here will be available for them. You can use it in your bots. Agent Force bots? Agent Force bots? Yeah. Agent Force bots, or Omni Studio, or whatever you want to use it. They are testable. Your flows can still be testable. You should be testing your flows. You will need to write some Apex to mock it, but that's what devs are for. And in use cases, the sky is really the limit when you think about calling out to things outside of Salesforce. And when I was actually building this, the demo out, I realized that, so we now have one of these in our sandbox environment. I'm not allowed to put stuff into prod. No one trusts me. So I work for an ISV, so we have customers in all sorts of orgs all around the world on all sorts of different instances, and they raise cases to us, not for my code, because I'm not allowed to put any in. But when they do raise a case, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we stamped the case with the Salesforce release they're on, the patch number they're on, because half the time at least when people raise cases for us, it's because there's been a patch rollout and Salesforce have cocked something up, or there's been downtime because of that rollout. So I was like, this would be cool if we did this. So yeah, we're using it right now, and I think that's pretty cool. So in summary, we talked about what external services are, kind of how they're different from HTTP callouts and why you might want to use them. I went through some cool demo with other Todd building things out. We had some critique on his flows, which was good. I like that. And we talked about the benefits and some of the limitations. But really, any questions about all that? Yes, Emma. Oh, 2 questions, yes. Where can you buy the T-shirt? Shirtforce.org. Good question.
So, why in that instance would you not use a HTTP callout?
So this is good. So in that demo, we had we were calling out to a currency, an API on the internet that we didn't own, was some third parties one. When we built the external services, it also gave us that get status action. It brought in automatically for us. So what I would do in my failure route would be, I'm going to then recall the API with a get status, because they might say, you've blown your limit on API calls, or your authentication token has gone down, right? So external services would have given me those 2 calls out the box. I wouldn't have had to kind of do 2 HTTP call out action, like defining those actions, I guess. Also, it told me what format my responses were going to be in, and also what I needed to send them in the first place. So that was quite good. But good question. Yeah, I mean, you could have done it. You could do that in HTTP callouts, but you just don't get those benefits, I guess. I don't think there's any performance side. You just kind of get more out the box that you can reuse.
And I guess only because the only HTTP callout I've done is for a currency.
Right.
So I've done it, and I just wondered why you'd go that way. But I suppose this is possibly a bit more complex that I was doing, and that's probably why I asked. And then the other question that we had, because we were talking about it at one point, was you say, there's loads of these available. How do you know what's available? Like, how do I know what external services I could or might need? It feels a little bit like it's like, there's stuff there, but I don't know.
What, like the horse before the cart, maybe, or you just not knowing?
Maybe it's just that.
I just want a window shop,
Yeah.
See what my options are.
Then just Google.
For that, but better.
Yeah. I mean, there is this thing, search engines, right? So just Google, what are the APIs out there? And you get bloody hundred. I mean, I could have demoed any number of ridiculous things here. Like there could have been a GIF generator or meme generator or cats in hats. Like I could have had anything coming back. But yeah, just Google it. And also, this came from a use case that Jana had, which was like, we spend hours a month updating all our currencies manually, and that involves copying and pasting, that involves human error and time. And so we were like, right, there's a use case we want to look at. Brilliant. Google currency API, and it's like hundreds. Like, yeah. So.
The reason I ask is sometimes I don't necessarily know what I want until I've seen it somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's a use case for that cool thing I saw 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, yeah.
And I'm incredibly late. It's almost like somebody needs to build an external service for telling us what.
Yeah. So on a Monday morning, you log in and goes, oh, did you know there's an API for... Yeah. No, I get that. Cats in hats. Yeah.
73 listing of that.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Ollie?
on that point, essentially, what APIs are out there, you can create your own spec.
Yes.
If you own the resource that you're calling to.
Yeah.
Then essentially you can create your own spec.
Absolutely.
And some of those tools, if you're calling out to AWS or Azure or whatever, they will have presumably a tool which will help you generate a spec.
Yes, you can do. Yeah. In fact, for the status.salesforce.com one that we've put into our kind of case flow, I took the existing spec and then I massaged it because it didn't give me, as an admin who didn't want to code, exactly what I wanted. Right? I had to use my understanding of the spec to kind of know what to put in. Whereas if the spec was stronger and better and like more strict, it would have been easier. But yeah, you could write your own spec for anything that's there, or even if you don't own the endpoint, you can write a spec for it. I mean, that sounds dangerous, but you could do, yeah.
And did I see you were using Swagger for that?
Yeah, so those were Swagger specs that I had, but I think external services will take any Open API v3 or v4, 2 or 3, variant of spec, I believe.
So, Swagger's the only one I've used, but are there any other ones that you would recommend?
No, I mean, that was fine, and they can come in YAML or JSON, I think, is accepted into the external service builder. But if you have one in a different form, there are tools that will do quite a good job of converting them, yeah.
So I have to confess, I've picked up some specs, and I've been like, what the hell is this now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and it's just like, but here's the thing, and then wrestled with it, and it didn't work, and I've just gone, I think I'll go to a different provider.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is that common, or is that me, or is it them?
It's probably them, I guess, because you're quite a smart cookie. But what you could do with these specs, like you could just create an external service just for it to parse the spec for you and give you the more readable output. Right? You don't have to use it. There are limits. Don't create more than 150 because then you can't create any more. But I guess you can delete them. Yeah. No? Right. Thank you ever so much. Appreciate your time. Oh. Cheers.